Okay, the next thing we're going to go over is managing permissions and why. Why do we need to manage permissions? By managing permissions, we can control who has access to a site, page, library, document, image, anything within the site. You can get down to very much individual detail down to, like I said, to a document. But not that we recommend it, because it becomes a long-term problem. There are 3 standard permission groups that we're using for the school collaboration: owners, members, and visitors. Owners have full control of the site. You can create subsites, manage users, etc. So unlike the outward-facing school sites, you as owners, because your principal sent here to this class, we take the assumption that you are the owner with the principal. So you are going to be managing your own permissions. No longer do you have to submit for your internal site. Still for the external site, but the internal site is all you. Members are content creators. They can view, add, update, delete list items, and delete documents. They cannot delete pages where you guys can. Visitors can read only, basically. They can view the page, read the list items, and download the documents, but they cannot do anything to the documents on the site. Site owner group. The principal is the owner by default. The principal can make others owners as well, which they've done with you, as I said. This group should have a very limited amount of people in it. Site members group. These are people in the members group are responsible for adding and removing content. So does a school secretary need to be in the owners group? Maybe not necessarily. If all she's doing is managing the school calendar, she just needs to be a member on the site that you have your school calendar on. This group again should be limited. The visitors group. People in the visitors group can only read, as I said, and download documents. This group should have everyone that does not need to add content. Everybody by default, and I'm going to show you later, and you don't ever have to manage this as a school. The visitors group is populated by a security group that has all your teachers in it and your staff in it and your administrators in automatically. It's when you're hired, then you're assigned to a specific school. You're in this security group already. So they, by default, once they're hired and they're put in that security group, they automatically have visitor rights to your site. You don't have to control that.
So like the Move All group, which is our all staff group.
That's a different group. Those are distribution lists.
Okay, well, right. But like the Move Admin group is a security group.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
This is not that group, though.
But here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, I may show up in multiple groups based on in multiple OUs.
Mm-hmm.
So where does it know?
You always have the highest level of permission. So if you're in the owners group and on a site, and you're also in the visitors group, the highest level takes precedent.
And if you're in multiple groups and you only delete the person out of one group, they still have rights from the other ones.
Correct. Yes. Sub-site owner should be the person responsible for that site. So like we talked about this earlier, if you have an English sub-site, curriculum site, you have the team leader for that particular curriculum should probably be the owner of the sub-site, not the site, the sub-site, and so on. The group should have very limited amount. Again, it has to be just that one particular person. And then you have the sub-site members group, and that's the members that is responsible for adding and removing content, collaborating. So if it's the English department, the whole English department should be in the members group. The next one, again, the visitors group. And I say sub-site visitors group because you can have a sub-site visitors group, but we don't recommend it. We recommend just using the site visitor group, because then you never have to worry about the visitors, because it's going to be the same across the board. And when you see how we do it, you'll understand how it works when when you assign the visitor, what visitor group is.
Now, if this is not the
group, you still are an OCPS person.
Yes, you have to be an OCPS
You have to
employee.
rate with somebody outside of that group.
Not unless you put somebody in there manually. So here's an example. You have itinerants in your school. They're not assigned to your school, but you want them to have access to something. You have to put them manually into your site, your visitor group, or a content or a members group if they have to collaborate with others.
Same thing with consultants.
Consultants are the same way.
Because I'm thinking beyond that, because right now we're doing a collaboration with a school in Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
which are, of course, outside people.
Mhm.
But this would not be the forum to collaborate with them.
Mm-mm.
No.
Not unless the only time, because you have to have an OCPS account.
Right.
Unless you put them on as consultants.
Yes, you'd have to create a consultant accounts for all of them.
All right.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at how to do this.
It's a licensing issue and what Microsoft charges.
Oh, yeah, no, it's quite all right. I've always been looking for a perfect collaboration platform. It was gonna be YouTube until they forced everybody to be a Google Plus member to comment.
But we don't have to do that. We have control over the OCPS domain in Google.
But for outside people to come in and comment,
No.
see, that's.
Well, to out and comment in a YouTube.
Because the school in Hawaii was sharing videos back and forth.
Yeah, because
I wanted the students
the-
over there to comment on our.
That's fine because your YouTube is public facing. So if they have an account within Gmail, they have their own accounts in Google.
See, that's the thing, we didn't wanna force them to have,
Well, anybody can leave comments in videos, can't you? In YouTube?
not anymore, you have to be a Google Plus member.
Plus, oh,
They might have changed.
with a Gmail account? I thought it was just if you had a Gmail account, you could do it.
They probably changed it to Google Plus.
It's Google.
But isn't Google Plus and Gmail the same now?
No, if you don't,
You can-
the
you
member
can have-
Osmar doesn't
yeah.
have Google Plus.
Mm-hmm.
He has an
I
old
didn't mean to
email
interrupt
that he
you.
owns.
No, that's okay. Okay, so let's take a look now. We're going to take a look and see what the structure of the of your website. Follow along if you can. Up at the top right, go to your cog and go to the site settings. And let's take a look at the top level permission. So under user permission, there's site permissions. So go ahead and take a look at that. Let's see, we need to change this. I'm going to take this out. So what you should see is 3 groups. You should see your school name, members group, owners group, and visitor group, right? Does everybody see that? What I want you to do is just take a quick look and open up the visitor group. Now, by default, you guys, I should have already put in there a staff group, staff.school, and teachers.school, and admin.school. And those are those security groups that I was talking about earlier that SAP populates. So, oh, I grabbed the wrong one. It's easy here. Let's click this. You can add it yourself. Remove this group. Go ahead and start typing. That one was what? That was the admin. So type in admin. Right. Dot Oak Hill. To start typing it, you'll start seeing it. There you go. No, go back. 2 words. So Oak Hill Elementary. There we go. And we're going to make sure we take this checkbox out. We don't want to send them an email. Okay. So right now you see the OCPS / and your school staff, admin, and teachers. Those groups are populated by SAP. So when the person is hired for your school and they're in your school, SAP puts that security group in their AD account. So as soon as they do that, they have access, read access to your site. So you never have to worry about them not being able to get to your site as long as they're hired. Now, this is the group you're going to put in for your itinerants, your speech and language, your hearing, things like that, because obviously they're OCPS, they're district employees, so we don't know who they are. So if you wanted to add somebody, click on the new button. Go ahead and do it while we go through it. We can do it at the same time. And then start typing. You can either start typing the last name. If you know the personnel number, which is the easiest way to do it, they'll start populating. See how it populates? It's connected to AD. And then once you add them, click where it says Show Options at the bottom. Let's see if you,
I picked the wrong person.
okay, just delete it.
They're going to be in there forever.
Do comma, then space, then the start of their first name. It'd be easier. There's probably a lot of Padillas.
Yeah, but he's got like 3 different last names. Oh, I know. That's her.
Okay, so before you hit share, very important, unless you want them to get an email. On the bottom left, there's a option that says Show Option. Click on that and take the checkbox out of that because you don't want to send them an email. And then once you do that, hit share, and they'll be added to the visitor group. So they'll have access now to the site. Read only. Now you could do more at one at a time. Once the name is populated, you can do another person and another person, so you don't have to go back and forth into the in there. So that's how you add a person. Now, whether it's in the owners group, the members group, or whatever, that you're adding in the exact same way. You're going to click on New. You're going to click on put in that person's name, select them. Make sure you take out the checkbox so you don't generate an email, because it's going to become more important later when I show you how to add groups, because you don't want to send it to the whole group. Okay. So now we know that your whole school has visitor rights now. So now let's take a look. Let's go ahead and click on the, let's go to the cog and go to site settings and go to site permissions again so we can look at all of them again. And let's take a look at the owner group. Right now, you're going to see yourselves, your principals, and you'll see probably ICTS Web Services and Intranet Admin. That's us. You'll leave those alone. This is where you're going to add others in the future if the principal wants to add somebody else as an owner. And the same thing as before. You just click on New, add the person. Always easier by personnel number because the personnel number is unique. So you don't have that problem. Like if I came over here at the top here and I wanted to give, even though Hector has access, if I wanted to give him specific access, I can come in here and Hector's personnel number is.
582 87.
So you can already see that his name just pops right up. So then I could just click on him and add him directly. So that's always the easiest way to do it. If you have a whole lot of people, put them in a text file, right? In a text file and just do comma delimited, or excuse me, it's semicolons. Do semicolons and then copy and paste it into that window and it'll do it for you as well. So that's why we like personnel numbers. To remove somebody, really easy. So I'm going to take Hector. I said, you know what? I don't want Hector in here anymore. I'm going to click the checkbox next to his name. Under Actions, I'm going to remove this user from the group. And it's going to say, are you sure? You're going to say, okay. And Hector is now gone. And as long as he doesn't have any other permissions anywhere else, he will not have access to the site. So what does that mean? Even if your teacher, say you have an English teacher and you have them in your English curriculum site and you've given them member rights to the site manually, they could still get there if you took them out of the visitor group, if they're not there anymore. So if the district moved them out of your school into another school, but because you manually put them in as a member of the English department, they're still going to have access to the English department subsite, not the rest of it. Does that make sense? Because we're going to break permissions, and you're going to see how that works later. All right, so now that everybody understands how to add and remove a person, Do you guys understand how the visitor group works with your employees on that teacher.staff.accounts work? That you don't have to worry about those. Okay? All right, so now let's take a look at, let's go to your top level sites. All right, and let's go to pick one of the sites you created. So I'm going to take the grade level here. All right, just making a test site to practice. That's good. Isn't it nice how fast you can make a site? All right, so let's assume that this grades site is going to be the English curriculum grade level. So go to the cog, go to site settings. Let's take a look at the site permissions. Now, if you look up here, you're going to see it says this website inherits permission from its parent, which is going to tell you your name of your school. Right? So we want custom permissions for this site because we don't need everybody in the members group of the school to have edit rights. We just want like if you have the school secretary in the members group and they're adding calendar events, do you necessarily want them to have edit rights to the English department? So probably not. So what we're going to do is up at the top left hand side here, you're going to see this a second button in. It says Stop Inherit Permissions. Stop inheriting. So we're going to click on Stop Inheriting Permissions. It's going to ask you, are you sure? You're going to say yes or okay. So this is where you're able to control this new subsite's permissions. Now it's going to ask you the first line, okay, for the visitors to this site, do you want to use the existing group or do you want to create a new group? Well, because we don't want to manage visitors every single time, we just want everything, we're going to use the existing group, but you have to make sure you select that existing group. So go ahead and click on the drop down and make sure you're selecting your school's visitors group. The next one, members to this site. Do you want to create a new group or do you want an existing group? But we've decided we want a new group. We don't want the school members group to edit this. We want the English department to edit this site. So we're going to create a new group, and by default, it's going to take the name of the site and call it with members. So Hector called this site grades, so grades members. So I'm just going to keep that the same. It's going to put you in there by default. Leave it alone. Now, below at the bottom there, owners of this site. Do you want to use the original owners group on the top level, or do you want to create a new one? Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to go and we're going to use the existing one for the moment. So if you go in there and then select the school owners group, because if you don't do this, you are not going to have rights to the site. And we want to make sure the owners have rights to everything, right? All right, so once you have those things selected, so really the only one that's custom is the member group. The visitor and the owner is the same on all sites. Then click OK. Once you click OK, it's going to bounce you back to your main sub-site that you just created, the grade, that site you were working on. So go to the cog again and go to the site settings and go back to that site permissions and let's take a look. What do we see? We see the school members group, the school visitors group, the school owner group, and a new one for the grade level, right? Just members. So what we're going to do now is, because we've already decided we created a new member group, we don't need that top level member group anymore. Put a checkbox in it and let's remove here. It says remove user permissions. Click remove, say OK, and they're gone. That group is gone. Now, we removed the group. We didn't remove the people from the group. So it does not affect the people in the group on the top level. We just removed the security group from this subsite. So now what we're going to do here is, so now you have your members, and this is where you, and on the right hand side, you're going to see the permission levels that those individual groups have. Members group have edit rights, owners group have full control, and the visitor group has read rights only. So now, this tells me that the visitors, which is everybody in your school, can read it. The owners still have full control, and this is where you're going to put your members to the curriculum or grade level that you want to have member rights. But remember, we want to have an owner, right? You want to have somebody besides yourself manage the site. You could do two things. You could put all your people in the members group, and they can collaborate and create documents and stuff like that. So if the person that's responsible doesn't have to create subsites and pages, then just leave it just like this. But if you want them to be able to have more control to be able within that subsite, you need to create a secondary owner group. So what you're going to do here is you're going to create a new group, and we're going to call it, just like everything else, we'll try to say the same pattern. So this one was grades owners, right? And we like to use plural because plural is more than one. You're going to have more than one owners. Now, by default, it's going to put your name as the group owner. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that the owners group, the top level owners group, which would be your school owners, is that. So this one happens to be web services owners, right? So it'll start populating as you type. And you can keep everything else as default settings, except when you get down to the bottom, you have to actually give that owners group full control. And then hit create. And by default, it's going to put you in there, so you can come in here and just remove yourself. So when you go back to that site settings and site permissions, you'll look, now you'll have 4 group permissions. You'll have the grade members, the grade owners, the top level owners, and top level visitors. Does that make sense?
No results found.
No, because you're not web services. It's got to be the schools. So Oak Hill owner.
Oh, see. I'm sorry. I was copying.
So if you do Oak Hill, is it Hills?
Okay.
Oak Hill owner. Oh, did I not type it right? Which one is
That's
the
right.
Oak Hill owner? Sorry, it's Oak Hill Elementary owner.
Okay.
All right, and then scroll down to the bottom and give that that group owner rights, and click create. All right. So go back here and let's go look at the full thing. Settings, site permissions. So now you should have 4 groups, right? So you got the top level members, top level owners, subsite members, subsite owners. So now you start to understand how the permissions work, so you can have custom permissions for your subsites. So now I can come into the members, the grade members, and put all my English teachers in this one group. Now, this is where it gets fun with permissions. If you do not, I would definitely make sure, if you do nothing else, make sure you put in a heat ticket. All right, write this down. Make sure all your distribution lists in your school, and each school has a different. Elementary has less than middle. Middle has more than, and high school has more than that. Make sure all your distribution lists are set as security groups, not distribution lists. And here's why. SharePoint can see a security group, not a distribution list. So now your TC manages your distribution list. So when they I know this is the English department, so I can come up here, put in the distribution list. I'm just going to pick one. Let's see, middle. Let's see, SMA. All right, here, SMA is Magnolia. See how they have the admin all classified. A lot of this, your middle school should have, your distribution list dash, first grade or 5th grade and 6th grade or 7th grade, or English. I'm not quite sure. I know you guys have many distribution lists, correct? So if you have, and you should have one for English, a distribution list, correct? Your English teachers?
No, well, I'm looking at them now.
Well, you're not going to, are you seeing all of them?
No, I'm seeing
So
these are just. I'm assuming that's what this is.
well, again, I don't.
No, that's a user. Those are all users.
Yes, those are all users.
Yes, they are.
So what you want to do is you want to go in there and go into Outlook. Outlook will show all your distribution lists. So if you go into Outlook and hit the address book and start typing in your 3-letter code,
I know these groups, but I didn't know that they were AD groups. I didn't think so.
these may not be they're distribution lists,
Yeah.
but you might want to think about converting them to security groups so you can use them.
That's what's the heat ticket.
Yes. Turn in a heat ticket asking for your distribution lists to all your distribution lists to be set as security groups. And by doing so, they'll be able to populate here in SharePoint. So now I can go and say, okay, pretending that this SMA classified is the English department, I can click on here, hit share, and all my English teachers have access, so I don't have to manage everybody individually. It makes a lot less work. So now, when I get a new English teacher, the TC has to add them to that distribution list. Once they add them to that distribution list, they automatically have access because they're in that list already. So in other words, you're not managing permissions on an individual basis. It makes it a lot easier this way. Any questions about it? So we know how to create a new security group. We know how to delete security group or delete groups. We know how to delete people out. Any questions about permissions? Okay. Where is my mouse? There you are. And that's not what I wanted. Mm-hmm.
Okay, notifications from the calendar. She doesn't have anything to do with this numbers. She just has.
Correct. So what you're going to do is you're going to put her at the top level as a member. So she'll be able to add stuff to the main site, but she won't be able, because remember, we removed the top level members group from the sub-site. So she won't have access to anything on there but to view, because remember, we put everybody in the same visitor group. So that she can go look at the site, she just can't make any changes, only to the top level. Now, there is a caveat to this now. When you're talking about permissions, so say for instance we've gone this route and we've said that, okay, the whole school can see the front page, but they can't make any changes or additions because they're not in the members, they're only visitors. So let's look at, for instance, this copy request, the copy request. So here's a question. If they have view rights, can they use that copy request? Correct. Why? Because you have to have access to the libraries to submit. Okay? So how do you get around this? What you do is you give custom permissions to the list itself. So that copy request form, you just click on that copy request and come to that library and click on the list tab and see where it says list settings. You can come over here and permissions and look at the permissions for this list. What you can do is stop inheriting permissions from on this particular list. And then what you do is you come in here and click on the visitor group, edit the permissions on the visitor group, and give them contribute rights as a visitor. Does that make sense? Because remember, we're only affecting, because I broke the permissions, because I stop inheriting, when I make a change to this group, it's not affecting this group anywhere else. So I'm not adding people in there, I'm not adding students, I'm not adding teachers into the members group, I'm just converting that visitor group into a contribute right. That's it. Couple clicks and I've given now everybody who in the visitor groups edit rights to that one library, not the entire site.
Just by hitting that like it says, it copies it. But if I want to make sure I'm right,
Mhm.
so if I went to the members right here
Mhm.
on this list,
Mhm.
members, and added or deleted somebody, it's only for that list.
If you remove somebody from the group itself, it affects everything.
That's what I thought. Because really, that list there is the site list.
Correct.
Okay. I
Correct.
wanna Make sure that.
Yep.
So if I want to
That's
do
why we're-
something special, I'll create a group here.
Correct. So what happens is when I stop inheriting permissions, I'm saying, all right, this group, I want to change the type of permissions, but not to the to the people inside of it. But it only affects here. Okay? So if I were to go back to the top level and then look at the site level permissions under visitors, you're now going to see read, and it's there's another option it's going to show. What's it called? Let's see. Let's go to the top level. Site settings, permissions. Okay. If I click over here, you're going to see now some content on this site is different permissions than what you see here. So I can click on it. See, now it's going to say, look, the copy request form has different permissions, so I can just come here, click on that. It's going to bring me back to that, and it's going to show me, look, they have contribute rights now. So you can look at it. It's telling SharePoint's going to tell you every single library, page, document that has different permissions than the parent. It will tell you just by clicking on that link, because it's going to ask you. It's going to tell you, hey, some of the content's different, permissions are different. Click here and see. So you can, you'll always be able to look back and see what you did.
Alright. I just want to make sure because, like, I'm sitting here right now on my screen, and unless I'm really careful,
I can't really tell from this screen where I'm at. Like, I can't tell if I'm in a list or on the main site. I guess I am because that, but I'm trying to read up here. Like, currently I'm on the copy request list.
Yep.
But I could be on a sub-site and I just don't know it because I don't see like a breadcrumb trail to know where I'm at. Ah, that helps. Okay, so all right, so I'm looking at this and it looks like I'm on the main site.
Well, you are on the main site because your
I'm on the main site.
your
but I'm on
list,
this list.
correct. Your particular list is on that site.
All right, so now my main question was, all right, let's
And
say
you can look in the URL. The URL will tell exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
See, that's the moo is the top
Right.
level, right? If it
Right.
was, say, your test delete, it would say school/moo/test delete.
Okay. So I'm here now. Let's say I accidentally come here, thinking I'm on the list
Mhm.
site, and then I start I delete somebody. I'm really deleting them from the overall group.
Correct.
Okay. So that's why I just got to be careful.
Only delete groups. Don't delete individuals.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you want to delete the group they're in only after you stop inheriting.
Mhm.
Because if you delete them from when it's still inherited, you're deleting it from the whole entire
Right,
thing.
right.
Yes. Okay. Now, you can, like I said, we don't recommend this, but you can be very finite on how the permission is purveyed. So, say for instance, let's take a look at. I think I have something in the school documents. Yes. So I have a particular document, okay, and I want only a certain people to be able to get to this document. I can come into this library here, click on here, click on the ellipses here, and let's see, share with, and then click on the advanced button. So this permissions is specifically for the document, not for the site, not for the library. When I do it this way, then I can come in here again, you stop the inherited permissions, and then you can make your custom permissions. You can remove everybody and only have two or three, just the principal in it, okay? Or whoever it needs access to. I don't recommend this because when you leave, nobody's gonna know, and no one's gonna have access. So we definitely don't recommend doing it this way. If you have to restrict access to documents do it at the library level, not the document level. So whenever you put a document into a library, the permissions is pulled from that particular library. Does that make sense? So you make custom permissions like you did on the page. You do it for a library. And a good example is a lot of the schools create a sub-site for administration. All right? But they don't want the entire school to have access to the administrative sub-site. It should only be for the administrators and the owners. So we say the owners because somebody has to build it, somebody has to maintain it, and that's usually not always the principal. So you'd create a sub-site, break the permissions to that site like we did just now, stop inheriting, and make custom permissions for the site. A different owners group, a different members group, and so on, and being able, but removing the visitor group, because we don't want the school to get, the teachers to get into that sub-site, right? So you just have to go into after you stop the inheriting the permissions, you remove the visitor group. So that means that everybody that's in this group here no longer has access to that sub-site. Only the principals, only the other members that are available in this group here. So that's how you're going to give your principals their own sub-site, so they can, collaborate with the administrators can collaborate together and do it in private. So, but yet they still can access it from home and ELC and wherever else they travel to. Yes, permissions is probably one of the most difficult to grasp. But once you start working with it, once you start understanding how it works, it can be very powerful in the sense that you can control very down to a pinpoint accuracy on who has what access. But we don't recommend doing such a, we go for the philosophy everybody should have access to everything. Only under certain circumstances should you have to tighten it up. So it just makes it for long-term management is much better that way. What time is this one still? 1:15? Or 2:15, excuse me. Permissions is until 2:15. So I got 15 more minutes. Okay, so then I'm good. Any questions about permissions? All right, we'll have a 15-minute break and we'll go into Antonovich. He's going to go over metadata.